and there are 7 factors, starting with the value of the underlying, the exercise price, and of course this gives you the exercise value, right? For a call option it will be x minus s, for a put option it will be x minus s, and naturally if this is something you're doing during the life of the option, then you have to discount it back to today, which is big T minus small t. So this is the exercise value for a put option, this is the exercise value for a call option. And in addition to the exercise value, you also have time to expiration. The Greek word for this is theta, that is used for option Greeks. Then you have risk-free rate, or R, the Greek word is rho. And I'm just telling you these Greeks because eventually you're going to have to learn them, and it will help you make your foundation in a nice way. So T for time and T for theta, R for risk-free rate and R for rho, and then V for volatility and V for vega. This is the option Greek for volatility. And the option value is obviously linked to its exercise price. It is also linked to time to expiration, because the more time is left till the option expires, the more probability there is that it will maybe go up in price or go down in price, depending whether it is a call option, then we will be interested in the price going up, or if it is a put option, then we will be interested in the price going down. So the more time to expiration is left, the more option value there should be. Risk-free rate also impacts both call options and put options, and by the way, we're going to have separate slides for each of these factors. And I will tell you about how risk-free rate impacts both of them. But it is kind of obvious to see how risk-free rate impacts, because a higher risk-free rate will make this part small, which means if this part will be small, and since this is negative, the overall impact on the call option exercise value will be positive. Whereas if we talk about put option, a higher risk-free rate will make this part small, which will mean that the put option value will be smaller if the higher risk-free rate is there. Anyways, we'll discuss that when we get to the slide for risk-free rate. Then volatility, by the way, is positively going to impact both, because there is a higher probability that the stock price might go up, which is good for the call option. There is a higher probability that the stock price might go down, which is good for the put option. So higher volatility, or vega, is good for both call options and put options values, because a stock can either go very high or go very low. Either way, both options like volatility. In terms of costs incurred while holding the underlying, so we will look at that, how that impacts the option value, and also benefits such as dividends received during the life of the contract, how that impacts the option value. We will be looking at that in separate slides as well. So first, let's start off with the value of the underlying, or S. So naturally, if we're talking about a call option, then if the spot price goes up, then a call option will become more valuable. But if we are talking about a put option, then if the spot price goes down or falls, then the put option becomes more valuable. So a call option is directly related to the value of the underlying, because if this will go up, then the option value will go up. But put option is inversely related, because here we want this to go down. Also, something we've discussed in a previous video for this learning module, that the more in the money an option is, the more sensitive the option's value is to the underlying. And let me give you an example again over here. Let's say the option of buying Tesla stock at 1,000 is in the money because the stock price is at 2,000. Now every dollar that increases or decreases in this spot price is immediately going to impact the value of the option, because any increase or decrease in the spot price is immediately going to reflect in the stock price, in the option value. However, let's say it was deep out of the money. Let's say it is at $200 right now. So it is completely deep out of the money and nobody is going to exercise this, so we'll have a zero value for it. And any change in the spot price right now is going to have no impact, because until and unless it reaches 1000 and goes above 1000, it's not going to be in the money for us. So changes in the underlying price for deep out of the money options are not that sensitive for the option price, but if you are in the money, then the changes are very, very sensitive to the options value. So the changes in the underlying price will be very sensitive to the options value for deep in the money options. Now, what about the exercise price? So for call options, again, exercise price is the lower the better, right? And let's look at two call options. Option number 1, which has an exercise price of 30, and option number 2, which is an exercise price of 25. And when we're talking about an exercise price for a call option, this basically means that it gives us the right to buy this asset. So would you rather have the right to buy an asset for 25 or 30? Definitely 25, right? So the lower the price, the better, because this is our purchase price. So a lower price of 25 will be more valuable. Therefore, for call options, the lower exercise price is better. But for put options, because this is giving us the right to sell, definitely we will want to sell at a higher price. So for put options, a higher price is more valuable, because we would like to have the right to sell at a higher price rather than for a lower price. So therefore we can say for a call option, we want a lower price. So therefore it is inversely related, and for a put option we want a higher price, therefore it is directly related. So the higher the price, the higher the value of the put option. But for a call option we want the lower price, because we want to buy at a low price, and a lower price will mean higher value for the call option. Next is time to expiration. So the more time is left for the option to expire, the better for us as far as a call option is concerned, because there is more probability that the stock price might go up. If you have the right to buy it at 25 and there is 1 month left or 2 months left or even a year left for the option to expire, then there is a possibility that this might go up to 30 or 40 or even 50. So the more time to expiration left, the better for a call option valuation. What about put option? Now here it is complicated. It can be both directly beneficial or inversely as well. Now directly beneficial is obviously because the more time is left, the more opportunity for the stock to fall below its exercise price. So let's say we have the right to sell at 25, and if we have 1 year for the option to expire, maybe there is a possibility that the stock might go down to 20 or maybe even go down to 10 during that time, and if it falls, then we'll make a profit. So obviously more time to expiration means more probability that it has a possibility to fall during that time. But at the same time, let's say it is already fallen, which means your option is in the money and now you're itching to exercise it, and since it's a European option, you cannot exercise and you're having to wait for the expiration, and it is really painful, because if a long expiration time is there and your option is deep in the money, now you have to wait and a longer expiration time, especially if there is a high risk-free rate, it's going to be painful for you, because your payoff is x minus s, and this will be divided by 1 plus r to the power t minus t, and a higher risk-free rate and a longer time to expiration will overall reduce this value, which means your overall exercise value will be lower, and therefore a high time to expiration can be inversely related to the value of a put option if it is deep in the money and there is a long time to expiration left and the interest rate is high. So as far as the relationship between the value of the option and the time to expiration is concerned, for a call option it is simple, it is directly related. The higher the time to expiration, the higher the value of the call option. But for a put option, it can either be directly or inversely related depending on the situation. If the option is deep in the money and the risk-free rate is high, then it will be inversely related, otherwise it will be directly related. Now risk-free rate, as I told you, for call option, a risk-free rate, higher risk-free rate will reduce this part of the equation, which means overall your profit will go up. So a higher risk-free rate is good for a call option, which means that call option is directly related to the risk-free rate. However, for put option, we have X minus S, whereas X is being reduced by the risk-free rate. Therefore, a higher risk-free rate will lower this part, which will overall lower the exercise value. So therefore, for a put option, it is inversely related to the risk-free rate. And this obviously does not directly impact the time value of an option. It is for a call option, as discussed previously, the time value is positive, and for a put option, it depends. If the option is deep in the money and the risk-free rate is high, then it will impact, but otherwise directly it does not affect the time value of an option. Volatility is good for both because there is a high probability that the stock might go up and there is a high probability that the stock might go down. So for both put options and call options, volatility is good, because in the case of a call option, if it goes up, then the call option becomes profitable, and if for a put option, if it crashes, then the put option becomes profitable. So the probability of both becoming very profitable is high, since the underlying asset is volatile. And think of something like Bitcoin. It can go up a lot, it can go down a lot. So both a call option and put option on Bitcoin will be valuable because Bitcoin itself is very volatile, right? So a call option is directly related to the volatility, and the value of a put option is also directly related to the volatility of the underlying. The higher the volatility, the higher the value of the option, whether it is call or put. Next is income or cost related to owning the underlying asset. Let's talk about income first, or benefits. Now, naturally, if there are stocks which are paying dividends or bonds which are paying coupon payments, once those payments are made, the value of the stocks and bonds fall. Because naturally, once the payment is made out, then the value which was accruing in the stock or bond will fall, and this decreases S. And since the value of a call option is S minus X corely, because of the exercise value, this S will go down, and therefore the value of the call option will decrease. And because a put option is S minus X, and when S will go down, the value of the put option will increase. In terms of carrying costs, naturally, if there is a cost for carrying the asset, this will increase as call holders do not incur these costs, because you are having the benefit of the asset, but you're not having to hold it because you have a derivative contract. So somebody else is holding the asset for you, and since you don't have to hold it, but you're getting the benefit of the asset, therefore the value of the call option will be positive. However, for a put option, it is going to be the other way around, because you are having to you have the right to sell the asset, which means you probably are holding the asset, and therefore you are going to have to pay these costs. So a call option will be worth less because of the benefits, because they reduce the value of S, and it will be worth more if the costs are more, since you are not holding the asset, somebody else is holding for you. A put option is worth more if the benefits are paid, because this reduces S and overall your exercise value is higher. And as far as the costs are concerned, your put option will be worth less because there is cost in holding the underlying asset. Here is a summary. The value of the underlying increases the value of call option and decreases the value of a put option, because it's X minus S, and here it is S minus X there, and it is X minus S here. Exercise price, naturally we want to buy low, so a higher exercise price is not good for the option, and we want to sell high, so a higher exercise price will be good for a put option, and we don't want a high exercise price for a call option. Risk-free rate will increase the value of a call option because we will discount it like this, and a higher risk-free rate means a higher this part, which means lower this part, which means the value will go up. But a higher risk-free rate will be bad for the put option because it will decrease this part, which means the value will go down. Time to expiration is definitely positive for the call option, but could be positive for the put option or could be negative for the put option, depending if it is deep in the money and risk-free rate is high, then it will be inversely related. Volatility is good for both. Cost incurred will be good for call option since you don't have to pay those costs, but it will be bad for the put option since you might have to be paying those costs. And benefits will decrease the value of the call option because the spot price will go down, and it will be good for the put option because the spot price will go up. Because the spot price will go down as well, and since it is x minus s that gives the value, so a spot price going down is good for the put option, but since here it is s minus x, so a spot price going down is bad for the call option. Let's look at the summary. So the exercise value is calculated for a call option, which is s minus x. We just have to discount this back to today, which is big T minus small t, and that is what you see over here. And if this is positive, then that is the exercise value, otherwise 0 will be the exercise value because we're not going to exercise if it is in a loss. For a put option, it will be x minus s, and x has to be discounted back to today, which is big T minus small t, and if that is positive, then that will be the exercise value, or otherwise it will be 0. The exercise value is something we just discussed. Moneyness is basically if the exercise value is positive, then it will be in the money. If it is negative, it is out of the money, and if it is 0, then it is at the money. And the higher the time to expiration, the higher the time value, and that is the difference between the option market price and the exercise value. So let's say an option is trading in the market for $50, its exercise value is 46, so the difference between these two, which is the $4, is the time value of this option. And naturally the time value is always positive until expiration, it becomes 0, and that is the time decay of the time value of the options price. And an option's moneyness is something we've already discussed. It can be in the money, out of the money, or at the money, depending if it is a call option and the spot price is greater than the exercise price, then it will be in the money. If the spot price is equal, it will be at the money. If spot price is less, it is going to be out of the money. For a spot put option, we want a lower spot price for in the money, and we want a higher spot price for out of the money. Now, the last point here is the use of arbitrage and replication before we come to the summary for the factors affecting the option value. So this is the second last learning outcome. There is a lower bound, which is the exercise value for both put option and call option, and the higher bound or the upper bound is the stock price in case of the call option and the exercise price in case of the put option. And this is because there is a conditional nature to the option payoffs, that they are non-linear, and this is for a call option and this is for a put option. And since they have conditional payoffs, therefore there is this no arbitrage upper and lower price bounds given by the exercise value for the lower bound for each case, and the spot price being the higher bound for the call option, and the exercise price being the higher upper bound for the put option. Now, the last learning outcome, before that, let me just talk a little bit about replication, then we will come to the last learning outcome, which is the factors affecting the option price. Now, again, this is something I explained to you during the video as well, that this will be covered in more detail at level 2, because replicating options are complicated, because if you're talking about a call option, then you can borrow money and buy the asset, which will help you replicate the upside of the option, but it will not replicate the downside. So therefore we don't buy all of the money, we don't borrow all of the money and don't buy all of the asset. Let's say if the call option is for 100 shares, then we're not going to buy 100 shares. We're going to borrow only enough money to maybe buy 50 shares. And how that amount is determined is through a complicated process called dynamic hedging, which you will learn in level 2. For the time being, you just need to know that only a portion of the shares will be bought, and this is based on the likelihood of exercise, which basically is linked to the moneyness, that how much is the spot price in the money, and which will impact the likelihood of exercise. And that is all you need to know at this stage. For a put option also, we don't short sell all the shares. We will short sell only a portion of the shares, and how much also depends again on the likelihood of the exercise. And this is an ongoing dynamic process, and the amount has to be adjusted dynamically. And again, you will learn more about this, and I hope to teach you more about this in level 2. Now, the summary of the factors that determine the option value. Obviously, the value of the underlying is one of the major factors. The exercise price is one of the major factors. In case of a call option, higher S means higher value and higher S means lower for put options, because here X minus S is what determines the exercise value. For a call option, we want a lower exercise value because we want the right to buy it cheaper. A higher exercise value will be bad for us, therefore it will decrease the value of a call option. However, the right to sell at a higher exercise will be good for the put option. Risk-free rate increases the value of a call option, since it will reduce this second part, and that will increase the value. For a put option, unfortunately, it will reduce the first part, therefore it decreases the value of a put option. Time to expiration definitely increases for a call option because there is more probability it will go up, and it also increases the value of a put option unless the put option is deep in the money and the risk-free rate is high. Then in that situation it will decrease, because you're going to have to wait for the expiration, and it is not going to be a nice situation because you're deep in the money, you want to book your profit but you will not be able to, and you will have to wait, and the higher risk-free rate will be impacting the exercise price as well, the present value of the exercise price, which is what happens over here. Volatility is good for both. That is one of the easiest things to remember. Cost will increase the value of the call option because you are not having to pay for those costs, somebody else is holding the asset for you, and vice versa. It will decrease the value of a put option. The benefits will make the spot price go down, which is bad for the call option, and it is good for the put option. And that is it for this learning module.